Clinton body counts. We are entering the, I don't remember what anniversary of the Ruby Ridge. Yeah, 27-year anniversary of the Ruby Ridge incident, which you call the Ruby Ridge incident and not the Ruby Ridge family shooting.
No, what do they call the Manson incident?
The Manson family murders.
Yeah, so the ATF family murder.
Okay, the summary of Ruby Ridge. Randy Weaver is a man who lives in Flyover country. He also likes guns. Randy Weaver was convinced by an undercover ATF agent to sell him a sawed-off shotgun, which, due to the technicalities of the National Firearms Act of 1934, requires a $200 tax stamp, which Randy Weaver ignored. He was immediately arrested, and then he was told that if he wore a wire and went to some militia meetings, then he wouldn't be tried. Randy Weaver said, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'll just take this to court. So they gave him a court date. They gave him a citation to go to court, but the date they gave him was over a week, or no, I think it was a month after his actual court date. So Randy Weaver missed his court date, and a warrant was put out for his arrest. The ATF went to try to arrest him.
It was a month off. His trial date was February 20th. On February 7th, the probation officer sent Weaver a letter indicating he now had the case file and needed to talk with him. The letter erroneously indicated that his trial date was March 20th.
Yeah.
So when he did not appear in court on February 20th, they issued a bench warrant for his failure to appear. Fucking hilarious. They decided to wait till the 20th of March to see if he would show up. And they claimed that all indicators are that the warrant would have been dropped. But instead of waiting to see that, they called a grand jury prior to that. He didn't show up to that. They decided to pass this from one enforcement agency to another, blah, blah, blah. They basically said, we got to just show up at his house and drag him out of there. And when they showed up, they were doing recon, and they said, oh my God, this white guy who lives in the woods in Idaho in the 90s, did you know he has a gun? Well, we got to go in there, guns blazing.
And just to be clear, Weaver normally, when a warrant is out for your arrest, when people flee to another state, but instead, Weaver simply said, he detected he was being railroaded, because he was, and said, okay, I'm just going to stay in my house and come and get me and see what happens. And the government, of course, said, all right, cowabunga it is, and tried to come and get him and to see what would happen. They ended up shooting his wife, and I believe they shot his kid too. I think it was a double kill. I think they actually killed his baby and shot his wife.
No. The general order of the killings are that they were sneaking, or they were trespassing on his property with guns. His dog noticed that, alerted him. Him and his friend ran over. There was a firefight. No one knows who shot first. We know who shot first. They shot his 10-year-old son in the back. His son died. Later, they used a sniper and shot Vicky Weaver, his wife, in the head while she was standing in the doorway holding a baby. She died. The baby did not.
Okay.
So they only killed his son and his wife.
Okay, they killed his older son. Yeah. They killed his older son, his dog, which is...
He was a lucky guy in that sense.
Yeah. He lived. He actually lived through the scenario.
Oh, by the way, and there's a great clip of Politically Incorrect, Bill Maher's old show, where he laughs about it.
Of course he did.
Because he was a racist, so therefore he was human garbage. How do we know he's human garbage? Well, because the ATF who murdered his wife and child says he was a racist. There we go.
Yes.
Ha!
They did not mention until much later that they had tried to make him an informant. Also, the sniper that killed his wife was a man named Lon Hoyer for the FBI. They tried to indict him for manslaughter, but it was dismissed under the Supremacy Clause because he was a federal agent. And apparently federal agents who commit crimes in, states, which is, the whole country, that can't be done. Then that very same sniper would go on to serve during the Waco siege of the Branch Davidians in Texas, which we'll talk about when the anniversary of that comes. The Ruby Ridge standoff is a very upsetting incident to think about.
Yeah.
United States federal agents entrapped a man into committing the most harmless gun crime possible.
He sawed a metal tube.
He sawed off a shotgun.
Yeah.
They tried to coerce him into being an informant. Then they accidentally gave him the wrong court date. And then when he failed to appear at that court date, they tried to arrest him. They killed his son, his dog, and then they shot his wife in the face.
Yep.
And then that very same sniper would go on to serve in an incident which saw a church in Texas burn down, killing a few dozen people. This was very, very upsetting to some people.
Yes.
One person who was very, very upset about this incident was a man who some of you may have heard of by the name of Timothy McVeigh, who would go on to bomb the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma, where the ATF offices were. That's why that attack occurred.
According to the official story, if you believe it, yes. The government's own terms, the reason that the Alfred P. Murrah building blew up is because years earlier, in multiple incidents, agents of the federal government killed innocent people, including women and children, for no discernible reason and got away with it.
Yes.
All of this happened under the reign of William Jefferson Clinton, who, of course, has never heard a fly. So it would be absurd in a conspiracy theory to, talk about a Clinton body count.
I mean, yeah. I mean, actually, to bring that home, when they say that if you have conspiracies about you are at risk for domestic terrorism, Timothy McVeigh is who they're talking about.
Yes.
That's who they're trying to connect you to.
And what they're effectively saying is that people who say things like Bill Clinton's a murderer, which would include Norm Macdonald, who made that joke on SNL, that people like that, they would like very much to show up at your house and shoot your wife in the face and shoot your son in the back, kill your dog, burn your house down with tear gas, and drive a tank through the front door. This is what they've done to people who believed such things.
Yes.
That's what they would do to you happily, and then they would go on Bill Maher's show, and they would just call you a racist, and it wouldn't matter even if you were black. They'd still just say, oh, you were a white supremacist, because it doesn't mean anything. It's just a term that they've made up to smear you by associating you with the worst people in the country. Then they'll just laugh. They go, oh my God, isn't that funny? That we burned his house, that we shot his wife in the face.
So, dear listener, please don't get too mad about that.
Did you know that Lon Horiuchi is still alive, age 65, charged with manslaughter, charges later dropped?
Speaking of things that are very hilarious, and if you don't think they're funny, then there's something wrong with you. There was a movie coming out called The Hunt. It's basically a movie like Most Dangerous Game or The Purge. And the plot of this movie is that rich liberals in New York kidnap flyover state people and set them loose in an artificial enclosure that kind of looks like rural Virginia and hunt them for sport. Now, granted, in this movie, these cosmopolitans from the coast are the villains, and of course, the deplorables are the heroes. I'm just saying, this is actually the kinds of movie that is being made it's called The Hunt, and I will just leave a link in the show notes.
Who was upset about this?
Who was upset about this?
Yeah, because the movie's been shelved. It's not coming out.
Oh, I didn't know, but a trailer came out.
The movie is not coming out. Universal pulled it because of Paso shootings.
Yeah. Okay. So there was so when the trailer came out, there was a mass shooting. Yeah. Oh, from the producer of Get Out and The Purge. So yeah, that was a movie that was almost made.
It was made.
That was a movie that was almost released. Universal put in the green light to make it. It would have been in theaters about a month from now, but mass shootings.
Which we're not going to talk about on the show, by the way.
Yeah, we're not talking about that. We don't talk about mass shootings on the show because it doesn't fit our narrative.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of media, on to more pleasant things. I'm going to be talking about a documentary, a comedy special, and a show I watched. Dan, I don't think you've watched any of these three things. Dan, if you were to just simply consume more products and get excited for next product, we would talk more about them. I'm happy to hear about your views on things. So let's talk about a documentary I saw called American Factory. American Factory, very simple. In Dayton, Ohio, in 2012, there was a General Motors car plant that shut down because it was General Motors and it was 2012. 2,000 people were fired, and it was estimated that it cost about 10,000 people their jobs. In 2016, a Chinese company called Fuyao reopened the plant and hired 1,000 people at first and then started hiring even more. And this documentary follows the workers in this plant as they deal with the fact that, all the managers are Chinese, clash of cultures, conditions, et cetera, et cetera. What's interesting is in this documentary, it's pointed out that when they were working for GM, some of the workers were making $29 an hour. But then under Fuyao, they're only making like $13 an hour. And they're also upset that Americans, they say, don't have a voice in this company. And so the second half follows the efforts of the workers to unionize, to become a UAW plant, to negotiate for higher wages. Now, I have two thoughts on this. First of all, why are people like this? I freely admit that I have never been in this particular situation. And in fact, most people in my family are unionized employees. But let's examine your situation. You were working at a factory that was owned by GM. You were getting paid $30 an hour. Okay. What happened to them? Oh, they folded. At my old job, I was being paid $30 an hour. Okay. What happened to your old job? Oh, the company declared bankruptcy. Okay.
They ran out of money.
They ran out of money. Okay.
The old company gave me more money. Really?
Yeah. Next. Now, normally, that would be the end of your story, right? And it's a story this country has seen hundreds of times. Factory shuts down, town dies, right?
Yeah. Next step, go to the doctor, fake a back problem, get some prescription pills, ride out the next 20 years.
Yeah, on opiates.
On opiates.
But a hand reaches out like a light shining in the darkness and reopens the factory and pays you $12 an hour. You were getting 29, then you're getting 0, and now you're getting 12. Why on earth would it seem rational to you to be like, we're just going to do it again? We're going to collude to raise prices on our employer. That's what a union is. This is not any kind of weird libertarian anything. What a union is workers colluding to raise prices. The old factory already shut down. You didn't just get a close call. You got shot in the face. Okay? That wasn't a near miss. You got hit. And then, like a necromancer raised you from the dead. And you're like, I'm going to collude to raise prices on my employer. Like, you didn't learn anything? There's no lesson here?
Nope.
No.
The lesson is, I get everything I want.
Yes.
Forever and ever and ever. And when this factory dries up, someone else will come in to give me everything I want. Because apparently, these white middle class, salt of the earth, real American, true hero, blue collar people that we're supposed to admire are just a bunch of Veruca salts.
I want it now.
They don't care how. And that's the answer.
Yeah. But then there's the other half of this also, is the sort of, like, it's not too much of an angle, but the mild racial resentment of being ordered around by a Chinese person. Yeah. If you're upset, so you have the factory, so in this case, the plant shut down, but it's the fact that it didn't quite happen, so in this case, let's imagine instead the plant leaves and moves to China, right? So you have American managers and an American workforce in America, and then China steals your jobs, right? So the managers in the factory move, and now they're bossing around Chinese workers. According to your perspective, America has lost and the Chinese have won. They've stolen those jobs because now all those Chinese workers are getting that money that you were getting. Okay, reasonable. Now, you have effectively stolen jobs from China just now, right? You had a Chinese company employing Chinese workers under Chinese managers, and now Chinese factory and the Chinese managers come to your town, and now they're paying you. That too, somehow you're the victim again. How? How can that be? How can you be the victim when they steal your jobs, and also you're the victim when you steal theirs? I've never heard of any situation